Do you guys have the equalizers with you? Okay, perfect. So we got some yeses here. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what calisthenics is, and then we can go into the workout. So calisthenics actually originates from a Greek word meaning beautiful strength. So there's a common misconception that anything body weight is considered calisthenics, but calisthenics is essentially strength training with your body weight to obtain certain skills. And much to like regular people's surprise, you can actually compete in calisthenics. So calisthenics competitions consist of two components. We have the strength-based component where we do sets and reps of the fundamental calisthenics skills like dips, pull-ups, push-ups, but with weight and muscle ups. And then there's this other side of calisthenics where it's called freestyle calisthenics, where you flip around bars and things like that. That's not as accessible to most people. I don't train that style because I like the simplicity of calisthenics and being able to work out pretty well anywhere as long as you have some bars and a floor space. So that's what we're going to focus on right now. So if you're new to calisthenics, actually, let me ask you guys, do any of you guys train calisthenics right now or have been familiar with calisthenics? No, okay. So the fundamentals of calisthenics, if you wanted to get started in strength training with calisthenics style workouts, are push-ups, pull-ups, dips, some core work like hollow bodies and V-sits and some dragon flags and rows. But that might sound a little bit boring because obviously we've done push-ups before, or you know what a push-up is, and that's not that fun to train for life. But it actually is. The cool thing about calisthenics is you can train it for your entire life and it always progresses on itself. So most people would think you get push-ups, that's it. That's the end of push-ups. But in calisthenics training, as soon as you get push-ups, you unlock a new potential for another skill. So your push-ups eventually become handstand push-ups, and your pull-ups and your dips eventually become muscle ups. And you just for life get to continuously expand on these skills. And then eventually you'll be doing, oh, what's going on here? We got David coming in here. But eventually, once you've mastered the basics, you get to go to human flags and front levers. And this might feel overwhelming. You might feel like you have to have a gymnastics background, but that's not the case. So I started calisthenics in my early 20s with no prior training. I had done like what typical early 2000s people were told to do, which was get smaller thighs, do HIIT workouts. It was never about strength training for women, but I had a dream of being a gymnast, but I thought you had to do it as a child, that was the only option until I discovered calisthenics and I realized I could teach myself how to handstand. And it took a long time to master the basics, but I've gotten to the point now while working. When I originally started, I worked 3 jobs. I only worked out in the evening. My actually first piece of equipment were the equalizers. I would keep them next to my desk because I worked from home and do dips and core work in between like work breaks. But eventually I got from doing the push-ups to now I can do the handstand push-ups. It just takes time and some dedication to learn all the different skills and how we progress. So a typical calisthenics workout would be, we would do a general warm-up, mobility training, positional drills, and then our skill training before our strength training. So before we do the pull-ups and the push-ups and work towards that, we do the fun stuff. So we work on handstands, but in the beginning, you're not gonna be able to do a handstand, but you might be able to work on a crow pose or an L-sit or an elbow lever. And today I'm hoping to teach you guys how to do an elbow lever, but we'll start with a tucked L-sit. So I'll show you what that looks like and what we're going to work on today. And then I'll take you guys through a warm-up, positional drills, and then we'll start working on the skill. But I want you guys to know what we're going to try to achieve today. So this skill we're going to work on after our warm-up is going to be learning how to do a tucked L-sit, which eventually turns into an L-sit, which eventually turns into a V-sit. Don't worry, we're not going to be doing the V-sit today, but I will show you how to eventually get there. And if our tucked L-sit goes well today, then I can start teaching you the beginning stages of an elbow stand, which you can make your I would say 2-month goal if you're serious about getting started in calisthenics. The elbow stand is far more attainable than a handstand. It took me 13 months to get a handstand. So the elbow stand, the beginner version would just be this, but eventually once you get good at it, you'll be able to do it with one hand. So I'm going to show you how to break that down and how you can work towards achieving that. Just going to stop and see if you guys have any questions. Can you all hear me okay? Okay. So I think we're all good here. Okay, so with your equalizers ready, the start of our calisthenics workout, we would just do full body general mobility. And like I was saying before, the fundamentals of calisthenics are your push-ups, pull-ups, dips, but there's also deep squats. So we do work a lot of lower body mobility because our deep squat, once you're able to do this, once you work towards this, will eventually become your pistol squat. So that's one of the reasons we're going to work on the lower body mobility. And if you ever get into handstands or even the elbow lever, you do need to be able to articulate your hips and your core and your back body to lift your legs. So my general warm-up would be starting with lateral lunges. So you're going to have your feet wider. Hopefully you guys are doing this with me because I can't see you. But we're going to go to the side and push up. And I want you guys to work on this scale. So hopefully you're doing this with me. So the lateral lunge, you want to keep your back flat. Sink into that hip. And then push from the outside of your leg up. So you don't want to just be flimsy at the bottom. You want to be strong. You come down, you push up. And then eventually, as you get good at the lateral lunge, which keep going, it would turn into a Cossack squat, which would be all the way down here. But right now that might feel fairly far away. But as you continuously work on the lateral lunge, you will increase your mobility to be able to do the Cossack squat. So take a breath here. Let's just do 6 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Stay where you are and see if you can transfer over. And of course, you can be doing this with your bar to make it a little bit more accessible. And as you go through this, we're going to try and get lower and sit up higher. Again, hold on to the bar if you need it. And then we're going to take our bar and we're going to go straight leg, lengthening through the spine, feeling the hamstring, and then we're going to sink down. And when we come down, we want to tuck our hips under, get nice, long, and tall, strong feet, pushing into the ground. It will burn a little bit. It's even burning me here. And then you can come up, straighten, find length through the spine, strong legs, feeling the hamstring because we're going to be using our hamstring in the tuck, L-sit, and back down. And we'll go for 5 more. So 5, 4, so you can get lower, sit back more. 3, 2, and 1, and hold at your lower squat. Sometimes you can grip under it, might help you a little more. Coming up, do a little shakeout. Still holding onto the bar, we're going to go into our squat. We're going to bring one knee down. It doesn't have to go all the way down. Just one down. And if you're a little bit more advanced, keep going with that. You could work on the 90-90. But I like doing it up here, where we have a little bit more strength behind our legs, helping them to warm up a little bit better. We'll just go 2 more. So 2, 1. Okay, we'll give our legs a little bit of a break because I'm sure they're burning a little more. Okay, I will do that. Okay. So we're gonna come down, and I think most of you guys would be familiar with the cat cow or cat cow. But we're gonna do a little bit differently here. I want you to squeeze the ground with your fingers, really squeeze. Then I want you to push down through the shoulders, and then find that curve. Thinking about pulling your chest through. And then from here, we're gonna try, take some time, but we're gonna articulate our spine from the bottom up and then round. When you get to this position, you want to think about squeezing your head to your thighs and your thighs to your head. And we're gonna hold that for 3, 2, 1, and then from the bottom, we're going to articulate our spine back to the starting position. Making sure you're gripping through the fingers because we're going to be using our fingers quite a bit. And then hold this, see if you can pull a little bit deeper. Here I think about dragging my hands to my knees and my knees to my hand to really squeeze it deeper. And we'll go through that another time at your own pace. And if you ever want to make this more intense, you can always lift your knees. And then what I like to do is circles to the side. But when you come through, I want you to push hard through the shoulders. So we'll go to the side, push, grip with the fingers, round, over to your starting position, and then back the other way. Slow and controlled. And again, pushing through the fingers again, pushing through the shoulders, pulling your core in. We'll do one more for good measure. See if you can push through that shoulder even more, find more space. Okay. Going into the cat position, push through your fingers, slightly lean forward. We're going to start to get our wrists a little bit warmer here. Just a slightly. Feeling it in the wrists, pushing down strong. And then we'll begin to work on our wrists. So if you have issues with your wrists, oftentimes it can be, at least in calisthenics training, that you haven't warmed them up properly. So no matter what level you get to, you need to work on your wrists. So I do a wrist warm up and strengthening at the start of every session, and a stretching out of the wrist at the end of the session. So our wrist warm up, we're going to start, you sit down however you want, you don't need to sit like this. We're going to make a flicking sound first. I want to do 15 of these. And I want you to flick loud, like you're flicking water off to start to get things warmed. See if you can make it louder, flick more. We'll just go a few more. I wish I could see you guys. We'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring your wrist down. Fingers pointed outwards. I hope you can see my hands there. And then we're going to lean to the side. You might only be able to lean a little bit. I might have a little bit more practice in my wrist range of motion than you. So if you're only leaning this much, that's fine. But we're going to go for 6. And then from here, I generally keep going side to side, and I turn my hands backwards. So now you'll feel a nice stretch here. And from here, you want to pull back. You might only be able to lift a little bit, and that's okay. You're keeping your first knuckle on the ground. So from the side, it looks like this. Do it from the side here. You pull back, feel that stretch for a second, and then down. We'll go 6, 5. Really pushing with the fingers, push the fingers into the ground, push the knuckles into the ground. I'm not great at keeping track of reps right now. We'll last one and we'll just hold for a second here, trying to push more with the fingertips, finding that length. Okay. Then placing the back of your hand on the ground, you're going to squeeze and release. You can do this pretty chill with your arms bent, but I would prefer if you push down through your shoulders, push the back of your hands into the ground so it's quite strong, like as if you were going to go in a push-up, your hands like this. So lots of weight, close your fists, which might be really hard right now. But with time and practice, it will get better. Squeeze. Last one and hold. See if you can make a tighter grip. Squeeze harder here. Your forearms might be pumped, like you can see mine are very pumped already. And release. So one thing about working on the bars is we are often balancing this way on the bars. And so we actually want to prepare our wrists for that position. If we warm them up, when we actually warm up our wrists, when we actually go up and we try to find balance, we'll have more control there because we prepped our wrists for the movement. So we're going to make that fist, pretend that we're holding the P-bars. And this one might be a little bit tricky to figure out, but push down into the ground and then roll forward onto this part of your hand. So we go strong here, roll forward, hold back. So you feel a nice stretch right here. Do that again. And we'll hold, pull back a little bit more, find that stretch, really pushing into the ground. Okay, shake it out. So what we kind of just did was our general mobility, our wrist warm up, and now we go into positional drills. So in calisthenics, it's a little bit different than like traditional like bodybuilding. In traditional bodybuilding, you wait to do your core at the end of the session. But in skill training and in calisthenics training, we do positional drills that prime our body for the movement. So if we're going to be utilizing our core in our training, we need to warm it up. One second, I'm just going to grab some water here. So if you ever feel like you're doing a skill, you're trying something new, and you haven't prepped and you're not doing very well, see if you can prep your body better for it. So if we're going to utilize our core, we'll do some positional drills first so that our body has already been there today. When you go do the skill, it's like, oh, I know how to do this. I already practiced this. So a fundamental in calisthenics are hollow body holds. So here, the beginner version would be you come on your back, you keep this rounded. At no time should any space pass right here. So you want to tuck under. And most people think about bracing their core as if I was going to punch you, you brace it. That's not actually what we want to do. We want to pull in and slightly up. So you're going to pull in, lift your legs, making sure you're tucking under. The beginner version is this, with your arms right here. And then over time, I hold this while I'm talking. Over time, you begin to extend your legs, just little by little, until you can do the full extension. Same with your hands. So this would be our starting position, and this would be, you worked on it for a long time. See, no space here, and I'm pulling in. It's not sticking out. So this is called a hollow body. It's fundamental. If you do pull-ups, you do them in a hollow body shape. You do dips, you do them in a hollow body shape. So that's why we're priming our body for that movement. So let's tuck our hips under. You find a progression that works for you. Pull your core in. Lift your shoulders up. You can also just have your arms up if you want. And let's hold this here. Finding your breath, keeping your neck long. You don't want it sticking out. Pulling your core in again. Make sure it's not bracing. Keep holding. You got this. You can move your hands if needed, or you can extend. You can also do one leg. Okay. But we don't want to just work the front of our body. We in calisthenics want full body control. So then we go into an opposing movement called the arch body, which we will be using if we get to the elbow stand. So we turn around on your stomach, and now we would hold an arch body, and the same principle applies. You can have your knees bent and arms here. The eventual goal is squeezing your legs together, extending. And if you guys have ever seen a handstand, you might see that lots of people do them with a banana back, an arch body. And if you want to get good at handstands, you would practice the hollow and the arch. And then when you go into handstand, you fall into an arch body, you have the strength to pull it from the arch to the hollow, which is the proper alignment, which is why we train both. So let's go. We're going to do a hold here. You want to set your shoulders down your back. You can bend your knees or straighten them. Probably if you can straighten them, that would be good for today's seal. You're going to squeeze up, extend your arms. We're going to find our breath, feeling our low back squeezing, our glutes are squeezing, trying to keep our feet together, even if your knees are bent. We're going to lift up higher. I'm watching the clock right now. We're going to go for 10 more seconds. See if you can get higher or extend more, really feeling the glutes is going to benefit our exercise. We're going to do later. Okay. One last stretch down here, and then we'll get to the equalizers. So as you saw on the bar, we're going to be working on that L-sit, where we want our legs to be extended. And it doesn't really make sense to go up there without having extended our legs and primed our hamstrings. So we do it here first. So we're going to do a pike stretch. We're going to flex our feet first, flex our quads. If you ever feel like your hamstring just can't get any more space, flex your quad. They connect at the same joint, and they both can't be flexed at the same time. So by flexing, contracting the opposing muscle, the other one has to relax. So hamstrings too tight, flex your quads to allow the hamstrings more ability to relax. So we're gonna go deep flex. From here, we're gonna try and sit up tall. You might have to sit on something, and you might have to have your knees bent. That's fine. I'm going to be showing a little bit more of the advanced version right now. Sitting on your bum, trying to rotate through the low spine, which we just warmed up. We're going to sit nice and tall, flexing the quad for 10 seconds. Going to get taller, taller, and taller. We got 5 more seconds here, really flexing those toes. And then we're going to go and point our toes. We're going to round our spine, elevate our shoulders, so our shoulder comes to our ear, and we're going to push. We're going to do a bounce and try and push a wall. You guys might be right here. That's fine. I used to be right there. Just with time, it got better. And we're going to go for 12 pulses. Try and touch your shoulders to your ears if possible, even if your arms are wide. Flexing those feet, flexing the quads, trying to get more length, pushing through the spine. The spine is long. Wherever you are, we're going to do 2 and 1, and now we're going to hold. You can go to pointed toes, hard to do in shoes. And we're going to hold and push for 10 seconds. Really flexing the quads, trying to get that length. It's okay if you're sitting on something. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, get a little drink of water, and then we'll go on the bars. Any questions in the meantime? Is everybody doing good? I hope you're doing good. For me, when I place them like this, I have smaller shoulders. I'm a smaller person, so I have them touching for you. set them under your shoulder. So this is where my shoulder is, the bar is directly under it. So for you, it might be up here. That's okay. I would just have them straight. So in calisthenics, as a beginner, you're gonna have to work on controlling your shoulders the most, controlling your shoulder blades. Oh, it looks like we have a question. So when you are starting doing your pull-ups, when you're starting doing your dips, when you're doing your rows, I always want you thinking about what your shoulders are doing. So in this case, have you ever done an L-sit, whether on the ground or on the bars, and felt like you're kind of suffocating, like your head is in here? It's because you're not working on shoulder depression. But that's quite foreign when you just start. So what we're gonna do is work on shoulder depression before we do the exercise. So this would be shoulder elevation, which if you ever do a handstand, they will be in elevation. And then there's depression. And this takes a long time to develop this mobility and strength. So you do need to put intention behind it. Like sometimes I've seen lots of people go to do an L-sit on the floor, which is quite advanced, and then they feel like their arms are too short. But it's actually that they're missing the shoulder depression strength. You see how much more length this gives me when I push down, rather than up here. Like if I try to do an L-sit up here, yeah, I'm nowhere near the ground. But if I find that length, now I can lift up. So we're gonna work on it. So come to your bars, hopefully still on this camera screen. We're gonna do scap shrugs. So you can start with your feet on the ground. For calisthenics, because I always want you in that hollow body shape, that disc shape, try and keep your feet in front of you. Might be harder if you're tall. But starting with your feet in front of you, keep your elbows locked and sink down for a sec. Hold this for a second. Find your breath. It's hard to talk and work out at the same time, so thank you for your patience. And now push up. Now this might feel very weird. Make sure you're gripping the bars. That's why we warmed up our wrists. And come back down. And then push up. Show you what that looks like from behind so you can see what my shoulder blades are doing. Let's see. And you keep practicing these while I'm showing this. If I was down, I wish there was a mirror in front of me, I'd be down here. And when I depress, look at that space. And then eventually you want to do it with no foot support. Do you guys have any questions on that so far? Okay, so be nice to do 10 reps. So if you've already done some, feel free to pause. I'm going to do a few because obviously I have to do the skill today and I have to make sure I'm more. This is something you don't really need to rush. It's more about learning how to actually control your shoulder blades like this big. Your shoulder blade is back there. Can't reach it. Do a few more. So one easy way to get better at calisthenics as a beginner is to incorporate support holds, which would just be this, where you just simply set a timer, do multiple sets, trying to get to 60 seconds, maybe 3 days a week, just working on this, working on your core and your shoulder depression strength. Okay, do a little shakeout, and then we're gonna start to lift our legs. Sometimes when doing this stuff, you might feel like you have to crack your upper back. Usually I would just use a foam roller for that if needed. Okay, first step to getting towards your V-sit, which is where my legs are up here, is the tucked L-sit. So grab your bar, grip them, push down. See how much I'm pushing? I don't know how good this camera is, but you want to push so that all of this is activated. And bring your knees up. If you can't do that, you just hold your feet in front of you. Not behind you, in front of you, and you just hold like that. And then bring them up. How did you guys do on that? take a moment, come send me a message. Do you feel like you have any questions about the tuck, or can we move on to the next one? Okay. I'll check back in a sec, but your tuck, you can do it accumulating 60 seconds of work time. Oh, here we go. Able to do next one, please. My knees aren't high enough. Okay. Do you feel like your knees aren't high enough because you're not pushing down enough, or that you don't have the hip flexor strength to bring your knee up? Because if you're feeling like this is the limiting factor, like you can't stand there and do this, then you can do some more seated exercises to get that working. So, or laying down exercises to warm them up. So you can go from here to here. Just working on that tuck position while removing the shoulder pushing component. And if you can stand there and do this, but you can't do it on the bars, then we know it's about your shoulder depression strength. So I hope that helps. The next stage, once you can do that and you're accumulating 60 seconds of work outside of this live, you would push down again, and then you're slightly leaning back, but not so much that you're going to fall. Keep pushing, lift, then you can extend one leg. Your leg extension might be here. I am a little more practiced than most people at this. Or you extend up here, or we do both. But when you go to extend, you're going to have to push harder in order to do that. And yours might be bent because we potentially need to warm up your hamstrings more. So see if you can do that. I need some water. And if you're working on this L-sit, this is called an L-sit. This is a tucked L-sit. And you can't straighten your knees. You come down and you do more stretching in this position, or you start to incorporate lifts like this. So once you've gone from your tuck, single leg tuck, both leg tucks, and you can do that, you can start practicing it on the floor, which is much more challenging. Or eventually you go to your V-sit. Your V-sit would take probably at 6 months to a year to achieve. The V-sit looks like this. Don't try it right now, unless you have a spotter. But the V-sit would look like this. Okay. Any questions, or do you feel like we could work on our elbow stand next? So the weakness probably isn't your quad, because we're not really using our quad very much. We're using the flexibility of our hamstring, and we're using our hip flexor to lift, and we're using our core as well. If you sit down on the ground, and you're taking out the shoulders, can you lift one leg straight here? If not, we know it's about the lower half rather than the shoulders. So you can work on, you can start here if you're not that flexible. And eventually over time, you bring your hands closer and closer to your legs. And then the advance would be hands really close to your feet. So that might just take some practice, but just starting at the, starting in a hollow body like this is fine. You can practice like this, eventually get here. Maybe your straight is here. Just with time, it will get higher. Okay, so I'm going to teach you the steps for the elbow stand. You don't need to do all of the steps. It took me a long time to get all the steps, but I'm going to show you how you work towards this over multiple weeks. The elbow stand is a great second skill to learn in calisthenics because it's far easier to achieve than something like a handstand. The very basic skill that you could work on for calisthenics would be a crow pose, but it's kind of scary to do the crow pose up here when you're first learning. So we're going to stick with elbow stand because it was my favorite when I started, and you can do it in many places. Like you can do it on just boxes. You can do it at home, on the kitchen table, on your bars. You can do it on a park bench. It's very easy to practice. But let's get to it. We just have to do one prep drill before I show you how to get into this skill. And that is some push-ups. So don't be mad at me. 4 push-ups. If you can't do them on the ground, instead of doing knee push-ups, it'd be nicer to do elevated push-ups. The reason being is you can then train your hollow body position. So tucking your glutes, pulling in, not bracing, pulling like everything in, tucking. So this is your hollow body, and then you can work on your push-up here. This is going to be more beneficial for calisthenics than learning on your knees, where it's super hard to get that same hollow body. It's possible, but it's not normally that accessible to beginners. So on your own time, right now, 10 push-ups. They can be up here. That's fine. We just need to get our body into a bent arm position. Bent arm. This is bent arm. We were just doing straight arm. Calisthenics, there's bent arm skills and straight arm skills. So I hope you're doing your push-ups right now. We're gonna pull our core in, tuck our glutes, come down to just below our chest every time. I'm gonna go a little bit faster because I'm gonna assume that you already did some. Gripping the bar. And I want you to go into one hold at halfway. Breathing in, tucking, pulling your core in. Okay. A little wrist shakeout, and then we'll go into the first drill. So if you get into calisthenics training, you'll start to see a pattern in learning movements. Essentially, beginner stuff is always in this nice small ball, right? Because it's all condensed. And as you get better, you always open more and more. So if you're to work on like the L sit that we just did, you start in a ball, you get bigger, bigger, and bigger. So when you first see the elbow stand that I showed you earlier, you might be like, that's crazy. And it would be crazy if you just as a beginner went on this bar and tried to fly, try to open everything. That's not going to be the best way to succeed. So the beginner position, taking your hand, you stand, so you guys can see the bars. I have them touching. Grab the bar, rotate your elbow backwards, strong. Feel the tricep engage there. We want this engagement before we go into the movement. And then the goal is to place your elbow as close to your belly button as possible. It's super awkward. Don't worry, it's awkward for everyone. But our initial position is going to be grab, rotate, belly or elbow near-ish belly button. Grab with the other hand, look up. If you look down, you go down. Look where you want to go. And we kind of want to go like parallel. So you're going to lift one knee and then the other. You're looking at the screen, you're looking at me, and we're going to hold that for a sec. This is your beginner position. We have all that weight kind of smushing our guts there. And we're going to do it on the other side. So step to the side of your bar, grip, continue to grip the whole time. Rotate the arm outwards, place the elbow near the belly button. Look where you want to go, grab the bar, and then lift up. So we're still pretty upright here. We're in this nice little tuck. It's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. How did you guys do on that first progression? Is that making sense? It might not be accessible to everybody, so you can keep working on your tucked L sit, but I'm going to hope that that was successful for you. So the next progression, grab the bar, same thing, but now we're going to lean forward a little more. But don't look down, you'll fall down. Look where you want to go. It's right here. And so now we have more weight than we did earlier. Earlier we were like this. Now we're like this. This hand is very strong. Your shoulder is really strong. You can see I'm extending a little bit more. there's not very much weight in this hand. And I see I got some comments. Okay. So we'll go to the other side, which is super, sometimes awkward to do the other side. So again, gripping, this hand's very light. This shoulder, this tricep taking most of the weight, like most of the strength, lots of the weight on the elbow. Look where you want to go. Jam that elbow in there. There's no better word. It is being jammed, and hold. You can stay like this for now, but if you want to progress a little bit more and you have that within you, go like this. So this is something you can do after your warm up, after you've done your wrist mobility. You can work on that. And I'm going to show you the other progressions. You don't have to do them, but I'm just going to show you so that you can actually learn from this session and take it into your future training. So once you feel like you can breathe, you're strong in this position, you start to extend your legs. So you can start to get into it fancy, pretend you're a gymnast. I tend to approach it this way. So go here, grab really high knee, lift. And then once you can do this, remain like looking kind of where like the wall and the floor meet, you can start to extend. But this might feel really hard for now. If that's hard and you can't do that, you're going to go onto your tummy and work arch bodies. Because you kind of have to be able to do this in order to lift up there. So this is a great way to get stronger at this skill. I'll just demo a few more times while you guys practice. So I kind of approach it from here, grab elbow to belly button, look where I want to go. Then you can start to extend, but it will take some time for your wrist to be able to hold this. And then a long-term goal would be taking one hand off. Don't do that just yet. And do it on the other side. Okay. So I hope that gives you something to work towards in the future. Generally, you would do 10 minutes of skill work before your strength work. Your strength work for calisthenics is going to be about mastering dips. So like 10 body weight dips, 10 pull-ups, push-ups, Australian rows, which I'm sure you've seen Mark demonstrate a lot on the bars, deep squats, and the core work that we just did. And so eventually, once you can do those things, you get to learn, you get to progress further from them. So you get to go from your, like I talked about before, from your general push-ups to your clapping push-ups, to your behind the back clapping push-ups, to handstand push-ups. And it just is a great way of exercising for life. Because instead of like, you're gonna hit a limit of bicep curls, eventually you will hit a limit, but with calisthenics, you get to continuously get to know your body better, build more strength, more mobility, more overall control, which actually helps you so much in your regular life. Like you might think, oh, pistol squat, it's just an Instagram move. Like it just looks cool. This is a pistol squat. If you don't know what it is, I got my pistol squat because I thought it looked cool. And then I realized the pistol squat made it easier to play on the ground, to get up from the ground, without using your hands. Like how useful is that? That makes me happy all the time. And then if you hike, often you put a leg up and your leg sometimes can be here when you're hiking, and now you have the strength to push up from there. And it gives you so much freedom. And if you get good at calisthenics, it makes other body weight sports easier. Like if you want to go surf for the first time and you already know how to control your body and you have good mobility, well, surfing's easier, longboarding's easier, playing sports is easier, and your gym training actually helped you live like a more free life in your body. And it's pretty cool because you can do calisthenics workouts anywhere. You can't always do pulling calisthenics workouts anywhere because you need like a bar, but you can do handstands and elbow levers and push-ups and V-sits anywhere, which is so nice. Like I love working out in the middle of the forest. It feels very good. So is the duration taken for about 60 seconds, like holding this one, the elbow lever. I would train it more as a skill. more this as a skill than like an exercise. The tucked, L-sit, V-sit, I would use more as an exercise. Rule of thumb is just for isometric work like that, you want to accumulate 60 seconds of work. So in the beginning, like say if you're working on your crow pose to strengthen your body, you might have to only do 8 seconds at a time to reach that 60 seconds. And eventually your goal would be to go from 8 seconds, to 10 seconds to 12 seconds to being able to do it in 2 sets. Whereas this elbow lever, it's not as much of an exercise because there's this like balance component. So I would just do that until you feel solid in it. Like you want to be able to hold it for like 5 to 10 seconds, but I wouldn't train it for an overall amount of time. More of like, how does it feel in your body? Can you control it? It's like your fun part of your training. I hope that makes sense. I would feel like I got like in calisthenics, if you can hold something for like 5 seconds, you pretty well have it. So I would just work on going up, finding your breath, which is hard to do while talking. Oh, you can do it in a diamond as well. And maybe holding this for 5 seconds, coming down, and then working on harder skills, but train it as a skill, not as your strength building. Whereas the tucked L-sit is building our strength for other skills. Like once you can do your tucked L-sit, don't want to get in trouble. I was going to show you a V-sit to a handstand, but it will help with things like that. But I don't want you guys doing handstands on the bars. So we'll save that for a later time. But I think that's it. At the end of your session, make sure you stretch out your wrists. So very simple, like things that feel good. For wrist stretches, do it the same as your other passive work. Really maybe hold it for like 20 to 30 seconds. So you would just like sit here. You can do this in front of the TV. Like if you have wrist issues and you're sitting at home, go on the ground and stretch out your wrists or strengthen them by doing more active drills where you're pushing down and lifting. But at the end of your workout, you just hold this passively. Chill, get to a place where you feel a stretch. Like I feel the most stretch, like this, but I have very tight muscular forearms. So this might not be a big stretch for you, I'm not sure. Just make sure you do that. Especially if you have sore wrists when gripping this, you have to work on strengthening your wrists. But I think we're out of time. I'm gonna get a drink of water. If you guys have any last questions for me, let me know. On my website, summerfunfitness.com, I have lots of calisthenics drills with the equalizers. So if you want to learn more, I have like one page that has like 30 calisthenics exercises and skills that you can learn on the bars. Yeah, summerfunfitness.com if you need more help there. So my name is Summer. So my business is called Summer Fun Fitness. And obviously I think it's fun. Like it's so fun. It's so fun to have a purpose behind doing the monotonous drills, behind doing dips, behind doing push-ups. Like you have a reason for doing it. So it's summer fun, but it's also functional. So all my things are Summer Fun Fitness. I have a YouTube video with the equalizers on Libert's YouTube. I have a follow along. I have 2 follow along beginner workouts. Yeah, so I have lots of resources there. Yeah, so summerfunfitness.com, TikTok, YouTube, everything. I'm gonna get a drink of water. If you have any final questions for me, type it right now. Also, just recently on Instagram, I posted the progressions for that elbow lever we just learned. So you can go on, I'm wearing this and yellow, this exact top and some yellow shorts. So you can save the progressions there and work on them. Sometimes it can be hard to remember everything in a live, especially because I talk so much. Oh, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Perfect. And if you guys haven't entered their giveaway, Libert's giveaway, I'm giving away we're giving away my 30-day beginner handstand challenge. So if you haven't entered the giveaway, make sure you do that. It's a full program. It comes with an app. You have all your sets, reps, and rest times. It's designed for brand new. People are brand new to calisthenics and hand balancing training. You do have to have like some faith that you can put your hands on the ground and your feet on the wall. If you feel that way, then yeah, enter the giveaway. What is the Insta? Summer Fun Fitness. Did you get your muscle development from just, yeah, so I'm whole food plant-based and I train body weight fitness. So all of my like muscles come from doing this. Anything else, you guys? Okay, I'm gonna abandon you guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Enter that giveaway. And hopefully I see you on a YouTube video about these equalizers. Okay, bye guys.